Hello and welcome to the Venus Project Supporter Show. I am Tom Hockney.
And I am Aiden Fry.
And we are the 2 points of contact for the Venus Project based in the UK. So check it out on Facebook page or email us directly if you want to chat. All links in the box below.
Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. All right, hello and welcome to, the Venus Project Supporters Show on UK Collapse Radio. This week, we're recording today, it's Thursday, so it is the day of the World Cup beginning, hurrah. I think the opening ceremonies are actually going on right now, but we might be able to get off and watch the game later if anyone's interested, I don't know. So I think today, as it's all going on, I think we're going to have to talk about it. Although it's obviously not the highest priority, there are issues surrounding the World Cup which are very pressing. So first of all, who's kind of... Well, hello to everyone. We got Tom, Mick, and Kian here.
Hello.
Who's going to watch it? Who's going to watch... Is anyone interested?
I'm absolutely watching it. I'm relieved that we've got this started just in time to get away in time for the match, actually.
Nice.
Starts at 9 o'clock, so we'll be just in time.
Yeah.
I'll watch it if it's on somewhere else, but I've got other things more pressing for myself to do.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited about it. As a spectacle, I love it. To be honest with you, I'm a football fan as it is anyway, but I recognise football for what it is. It's basically a man's version of a soap opera. Basically, is the way I do it. We've got your good characters, your bad characters. We all kind of have our, So that in that way as a spectacle, yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to it. But I try not to look at football too much that way. More the skill and the athleticism and the physical achievement by the people involved. They're top class athletes. There's no doubt about it. Overpaid top class athletes, but.
Well, I think for me it's kind of similar. I'll watch a game of football, but I don't care who wins. You know, and it's taken me a long time to get here. I was raised as a football and rugby kind of supporter, and slowly kind of went through it. And playing it is so fun, but watching it is a bit boring sometimes. I don't know. I think the World Cup could be interesting. I enjoy watching football if it's a good game of football. So I'll probably watch the odd game here or there of the World Cup, but I don't really care who wins.
Well, I've kind of picked my allegiances because I think, as I said, the soap opera and that part of the spectacle is all kind of part of the show. So Portugal and Holland are the two teams I'm backing. So
fair enough. Tom, you've been pretty quiet.
I was just going to say, I'm not sure. I think for some people, the reason they maybe support a team is because they kind of seek to support a team. They want to. It's not like an obligation or something nationalistic necessarily. Maybe it's something more like they want to feel involved and therefore they put their ego and their passions into a team and get upset and get happy when they are.
Yeah.
But I've never really understood the concept. I don't understand at all why I should want one side to win. And I can comment, although I always root for the underdog. So the few football games I have watched, I'm like, I want them to win because they're losing, and then they start winning. It's like, oh, screw those guys, kind of thing.
Yeah, the underdog syndrome. You'll never win. You'll always draw.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day as well, there's this Mitchell and Webb sketch on it, and it's like when do you win football kind of thing? Like, what is there to gain? You win one season, then the next season comes around, and it's kind of like, I'm not sure in the community, but in my mind, it's kind of forgotten. It's like, when do you win? What's the end goal? Is it not just this perpetual cycle of competition?
It's about racking up the titles. more and more titles.
Like when I was young, I found that no matter who I supported, I was wrong. Like if I supported Barnsley, they were crap. They were in like Division 1, so they were crap. And then if I spotted Man United, glory grabber. So I thought, I'm not interested anymore. That's it. There's no like, whoever you support, you're wrong for supporting them. I gave up with it.
The thing, I was raised a Man United supporter. Like, that's the way I term it. And like, even now, I'll take a vague interest, but it tends to be in a season, or at least a couple of years ago. I haven't done it for a while, but like, I kind of like, I choose a team that year, like after the transfers or something, and just be like, yeah, that team looks good, and I don't know. Tend to like put a bit of emotion into it when I probably shouldn't.
Yeah. Well, I've kind of moved away from following the transfer stuff over the past couple of years, because it's the pointless gossip type of stuff about it that I really have no interest in just reading a story because someone decided to write a story, but there's absolutely no basis to it. But I do follow how the team's doing, and I do follow the league table and stuff like that pretty closely throughout the season. But I'm in no way in tune with it as I would have been. Like, I don't know every player's name. I don't see a reason to know every player's name anywhere. And I mean in the league, not just in the team. But like Tom said, there's completely this kind of egotistical thing about it, where if you're speaking to football fans about football, you want to know what you're talking about. You want to you don't want to sound like you're talking shit, and and you don't want to be made to look a fool. Go ahead, Mick.
There was something Carl Sagan said that I liked, and it was an interview, and he said, science isn't that hard. Like, people will look through the stock market, and people look at football stats and betting stats as well, like gambling statistics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we know people have got the intelligence to do things like that, but they don't do it with science. They do it with football. So yeah, I like what he said.
Yeah, I remember. I've heard that quote from him as well, and I completely agree. Yeah, people are able to keep track of information just as long as they make it relevant to themselves.
Yeah.
And show a commitment to just following data.
And it's really like there's this kind of diversionary waste of like human computation. So much brain power is going into this thing, and just like following it. It's crazy.
I think we do that an awful lot.
Oh yeah. So much of like the computational power of my brain is wasted on me just thinking about random pointless shit.
Yeah. That's true.
Anyway, so that's generally a good overview, I think, of our general stances of football and a bit of background into that. So what we've basically done this week is we found a whole bunch of documentaries and stuff, and general things of interest around this. So we'll just kind of go over them, give you an overview of what these things were, and just tell you how to find them yourself. I think because they're really cool, cool various things. First one, I guess, is there's a BBC Panorama. It might be on the iPlayer still. Actually, it might be BBC Horizon. I can't remember if it's Horizon or Panorama. Anyway, there's one called In the Shadows of the Stadiums, and it's about a 40-minute film about the slums and the people who live in the shadows of the stadiums, and basically about lots of the child sex workers that go on there. And it's going to go on with the kind of foreigners coming in and all that stuff, and it goes into a bit about how into the corruption in Brazil and the police force, because they kind of turn a blind eye to these kids. It was kind of sad, really sickening actually to watch. Like these people were trying to help people, but just not.
Yeah, entirely. It is sickening to watch. It's when the sport becomes more important, the sport as a spectacle and as that soap opera it becomes more, and this world stage event becomes more important than the human impact. It's a massive part of football, unfortunately, that we willingly ignore.
Yeah. I was talking to my friend about it earlier. It was just like, yeah, you just gotta turn a blind eye to that. It's like what, like
That's Turning blind eyes is not the way to live your life.
Like the world is on a voyage into Brazil right now. The spotlight is going to be on there, and we can see what's actually going on from so many angles that we can actually, like, really. I think people. This is what I hope. This is me doing expectations. I'm going to be let down. But anyway, I really hope that people look at Brazil and actually look at the country and the state that it's in, the way it's run, and how it's essentially just a more extreme version of what we have here, what we have in the West. It's what we're going towards. That's what I really think. And we have to see that and and understand, help them and sort ourselves out so we don't go on the same path.
Yeah, and I think I think you're right in what you're saying. I think it's just economic strategies of the powers that be in each individual country, expanding and spreading out. They're now fully successful economically strategy that's been implemented other places, and deciding they need to turn even their own economies into something similar, which we know the human impact of which is disastrous.
You just look at Brazil and some of the stats that come out of it that I'm quoting off by, I don't know, but they were a couple of years ago at least the fastest growing economy in the world. Yet they had one of the highest levels of poverty in the world and one of the highest levels of wealth inequality in the world.
It's the old GDP trick.
It's like growth, growth for the sake of growth. You know what I mean? It's what kind of growth does a country have? If you want to look at growth as this general concept rather than just a bunch of numbers, you got to look at does the general population rise out of poverty? That is growth, not just a bunch of people at the top getting so rich that it makes the whole country look like it's growing.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, they kind of have an argument for that, although I don't accept it. And that argument would be, well, there are more rich people today, or there are more people earning more today than there would have been before these type of economic processes took impact. So therefore, that's a positive, right? That's better than if there weren't more people with higher levels of income. That's their argument. But to me, it sounds like, isn't that good enough? Leo, can't we just accept that and say, sure, that'll do? You know.
And how does it excuse is it 1 billion people dying from poverty per year, or not having enough? What did it do for them?
That's right.
I don't know about 1 billion dying, but I'd definitely say somewhere around 6 billion suffering, at least as a consequence. In certain degrees, obviously, slavery and debt to the system. But then there's the whole no access to water thing. I think that's roughly 3.5 billion. That's fucking insane.
3.5 billion.
It's very statistic, but 3.5 billion is what I've heard, and not necessarily no access to water, just no access to clean water or water that won't give you severe diarrhea.
Yeah, right. Fuck me.
If you check worldometers.info, I think it is, it shows you how many people are dying of, I think it's malnourishment per day, and it's something like 35,000 people. It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, that's crazy. Alright, so that is the kind of poverty side, I guess, of Brazil as a topic. Moving on, the next documentary I think we watched was the Vice documentary. They've only released 2 parts out of this 4-part thing. I can't remember what it's called. It was something in Cooper A Cup or something like that. The Other Side of the World Cup by Vice, and you'll find it on YouTube. So, did anyone watch that? I think, Tom, did you watch that?
Yeah. Well, I watched the first 2 parts that are out.
And so that was really more focusing on the protest, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of civil unrest.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. And Brazil's history.
Yeah.
Oh, for the past couple of years, yeah. I mean, I don't really have much to say on it that would be of like any better than someone going and watching the video kind of thing.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we'll kind of do that with that one. Go and watch it. These are really good, really quite in depth, and there'll be some more coming out soon. And yeah, just kind of the history of the protests and the stuff that's going on, the kind of increasing police state stuff that's going on there, which is cool. Not cool.
Not cool.
No, not cool. Not cool, guys.
Well, I have had a thought of there was last June, so round about this time last year actually, there was 1 million people spread over Brazil protesting. 1 million's a pretty fucking big number. I know their population's like 200 million, but still 1 million's a pretty fucking huge number. and I was just wondering today, because it was actually from watching the Brazil an interview with the Brazil football team manager. He was saying, you know, they have the right to make their point on the world stage, you know, about what the reality of their lives are and things like that, and they'll be out protesting and they have the right to do that and whatnot. But whenever it comes to game time, there's going to be a lot of them people in the stadium watching the matches. Now, obviously, he's saying that doesn't make it a fact, but I was thinking to myself, you know, I wonder just to what degree that will happen, and we can actually relate to that again here in our own economy. You know, we can complain about things, we can dislike them, we can we can actively fucking hate them, but then at the same time partake in them and perpetuate them.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Yeah, I think like an example would be, I can't remember when it was, maybe last year, there was Brazil versus Spain, and there was big protests going on at the same time. And I don't know if it was just the way that, I think it was the BBC kind of told me about it, but it seemed like there was people outside all the way through the match, and they maybe were even like watching the match, and like they were saying like, well, whilst this guy scored, these guys were getting frenetic out here, and it kind of sounded like they maybe had some correlation, or maybe it was just there were people outside not paying any attention, just like protesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be a few earbuds out there just listening to the radio. But
yeah, one of the arguments in the Vice video that was made was that a lot of people, well, some people say that the protests are happening now, but then when the games start, Brazil will become united and the protests will stop. But then the argument against that was that game last year, Spain versus Brazil, where there were protests and riots and clashes with police and protesters with, you know, involving Molotov cocktails, firearms, and like stun grenades and things like that. Whilst the game was still going on inside the stadium, just a few meters away. So that suggests that it's not an issue that can be quietened with here's a football watch it roll. There needs to be more actual practical measures put into reducing poverty and crime in, well, not only Brazil, obviously, but the world, but yeah, Brazil in this instance.
I don't know if anybody saw the. Sorry, go on, Tom.
No, you go. Go for it.
If anybody saw the Romario interview BBC did, he was saying that people have the right, like Kane said, have the right to protest, but like he agrees with peaceful protest as well. Like people don't have to protest while the game's on, you know what I mean? And people don't have to like get in people's way or spoil people's journey or whatever. But they're going to protest because of what's happening. So like he says, he agrees that like it should be peaceful protest. But I think in some of the articles that I've read, people were saying if the government doesn't take notice, then things might get worse, which is kind of scary. I mean, you don't want any fans or even players getting hurt or kidnapped or whatever, but like, I mean, how bad are these allegations? Like, will people say this just to scare people, or will people actually do things like that? I mean, I don't know what they say. The countries like I've never been to Brazil, and
I think it would be fair to assume the threat, right? The risk of it is definitely there, you know.
Yeah. Well, would any of you go and watch the football?
no, I would never go to. No, I wouldn't go to Brazil. Yeah, to me, it's the next step from Jamaica.
2 or 3 years ago, whenever I knew the World Cup was coming up in Brazil, I was 100% going. No questions asked. I was going to Brazil for the World Cup. It's the home of samba football. It's some of the best football, national football team in the world, as far as I'm concerned. There was no way I was missing Brazil. It would be the ultimate festival, you know. Under the circumstances, and what has transpired over the past 3 years, both with myself and in Brazil, I couldn't see myself even considering it as an option.
I mean, come to think about it, it seems like a climax of events, the World Cup. Like, you know, the protests in Brazil and economic instability in Europe, in those areas of Europe, and that there could be a major event that would signify some kind of climax of events, some kind of cataclysm. I don't know. That's just speculation, but like it's got potential. Like you know, there's definitely the fuel for a fire right there.
Yeah, for it to go ballistic.
Exactly. You've got impoverished people desperate, just desperate for answers and desperate for an alternative life, desperate and like hating the system and hating the elite so much, and then they've got, you know, hundreds of thousands of tourists and elitists in their area, like a few miles from slums, partying, and it's like you know, it's like an insult, really.
Yeah, you've got like lots of angry poor people, and you're going to put lots of rich, happy people in the middle.
Well, like if you starve a bunch of monkeys in a cage and then put food right outside the cage where they just can't reach it, are they going to go to the opposite side of the cage from where the food is and go nuts and be angry about it, or are they going to go right to the cage and be as close to the food as they can be?
Yeah, that's like more a real life situation than it is a metaphor, like, if anything, because there are literally wealthy people right there in arm's reach, and it's like, you know, this is the lifestyle that they live. They'll come here for a few months and then they'll fuck off and leave the country, and FIFA will leave the country, and that'll be it.
Yeah. And there can maybe be arguments made like, oh, the money tourists are going to spend and how good that's going to impact economically that way, but we know that the majority of the money that is made during the World Cup through sponsorships and stuff like that, well, actually all the money through sponsorships and stuff like that goes directly to FIFA. FIFA gives Brazil £0 and 0 pennies. So whatever's made through retail and local trade and stuff like that will be minimal.
Yeah, you see,
like the bigger summer.
Yeah, like that gets thrown around a lot. I mean, I heard people saying that it'll do well for Brazil and they'll gain a lot in, I don't know, like industry or some crap like that. But when I think about it, we're talking about thousands of people in slums who don't have jobs, and you know their income. I'm not actually sure, but I can't imagine what they do is they're going to profit much from this. I can imagine maybe the middle class will profit from this, from the local tourism, but I can't imagine the people really suffering will profit at all.
Well, what they do is they sign up to build the stadiums, and then the stadiums collapse on their heads. How many workers have died already? I've lost count. A year, so many. Like the monorail like broke yesterday and just smashed or something like.
Yeah, the monorail that they were building, apparently the slab of it, I think, fell over from what I was looking at. One worker killed and 3 injured. But like, I think that was supposed to be finished for the World Cup. So I'd like to see if when the World Cup's finished and this monorail's not finished, if it'll get finished. that'll kind of tell us if any money really went to Brazil. But if it does, I mean, that's one positive, the monorail system for them, because apparently their public transport's pretty bad. The buses and the trains just jam-packed by the looks.
But I have an argument against that, which is if you look at the train line that's supposed to be installed in the UK, the high-speed rail network or whatever, the number one problem with it is that most people aren't actually going to be able to afford to use it. So yeah, it might be a piece of infrastructure that's a step up, but whether or not people are actually going to be able to use it, in reality, it might not be the case.
And like, how many of us really need to get from Manchester to London, like that fast?
Well, only the ones that can afford it. I suppose that's the point, right?
Anyway, all right, another documentary. I guess I think we all watched this. Most people that I know have watched it. You know, John Oliver. He's on some American chat show explaining FIFA to a bunch of an American audience.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. I learned a hell of a lot from this actually. Quite a lot we've just actually kind of gone over. But yeah, it was really interesting, really funny. And yeah, hell of a lot of kind of corruption and just bad behavior from FIFA. I didn't realize that FIFA was a non-profit organization. Like, they don't act like
That's
that.
the biggest joke I've ever heard.
I know.
It's one non-profit with a $1 billion
Reserve.
But that's just in reserve. and Sepp Blatter and all those other guys only earn millions a year. But yeah.
Wait, they have like video games and a movie coming out, so it might seem different, but that's profit-based, right?
Yeah.
I like as well at the end of the that video clip, that news story or whatever it was, the similarities. It compared, well, at the beginning it says people commenting football is religion, soccer is religion, and the amount of people that get upset when I say that, and the similarities are quite like there's a few, like hymns and chanting, football chants, feuds between denominations or City Club and United Club. Football was made up quite a while ago. I know religion was made up a long time ago, but like the concept of football was made up by man. They've got a large place of worship where lots of people go, and like they've got golden statues, idols, etc. So there's a few similarities, and like
Consider a community shared community event type of thing. You know, each team gets involved as a community.
And like if like I see it as when I say football's a religion, people go mental at me. I think I've just blasphemed.
It must be the way you say it though, because I know so many people that say football is my religion. Honestly.
Yeah.
They would, yeah.
It's a religion to me. It is not actually a religion in the way that they think of religion. Which is probably where you're getting into trouble. But.
I think it's a religion for some people. I don't think those individuals should take it too seriously. And I have kind of grouped everybody together and said, because one football fan said something stupid like football's more important than life, I've gone, oh, football fans are religious, too serious, and it's not everybody, you know what I mean? I was wrong in saying that a lot of times. So yeah, apologies there.
Yeah, but to be fair, it's got similarities that way in that I'm not a Buddhist, but I might read something or follow some practices of Buddhism, right?
Yeah.
I don't have football as my religion, but I still take bits of it and it impacts my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not Christian, but I still read things out of books.
Yeah, right. Another thing that video highlighted to me, the last video you were just speaking about, Aiden, was the reality, if anybody is in doubt of the activity of corporatocracy globally, FIFA on its own, but then whenever the sponsorships are taken into consideration as well, the law has been changed in Brazil and other countries before. And to quote FIFA, it was unnegotiable as to whether or not that would have to happen, that would happen. And now in Brazil they have what they're deeming the Budweiser bill, right? Because they don't serve beer in during football matches there because there's a high level of death rate through fighting and riots and breaking out and stuff like that. But that law goes out the window for FIFA. They obviously, like, let's not beat around the bush. Brazil's a corrupt country. You know, there was somebody paid in some way to make it happen easier. Well, I say Brazil's a corrupt country as if it's one of the few. They're all corrupt countries, but I think that if anybody has ever been in any doubt of that or a skeptic of that as to the activity of corporatocracy within the global economy, that it's a fantastic, open for the world to see example of it taking place.
It is because like FIFA, they are a control group, or they might be a front for a control group. Like they might be on the same level as politicians, as in they're the kind of face who actually really pulls the strings behind it. Because how many people around the world do they affect and control their behavior through just setting up, like Brazil is in this thing or whatever, and like pushing this whole bloody thing. They are like the the Vatican, like, you know.
No, yeah, I can see how you mean, because they're actively influencing the culture of the country, the way things happen, what people should and shouldn't do.
Like they have control over English football, or at least like access and like restrictions to certain various things. They can say that you can do this and that, whatever.
What was the actual law that was changed for? Was it Budweiser?
Yeah.
In Brazil, what was the law?
It's called the Budweiser Bill.
The Budweiser bill, yeah. There was no drink allowed, no beer served during football matches before. Now there is. Well, will be.
Budweiser is a sponsor of FIFA. So.
And was there something to do with tax as well? Do FIFA get less tax, or is that just me?
FIFA doesn't pay tax, I don't believe.
Like a religion doesn't pay tax.
As a not-for-profit, that's a possibility, I suppose, right?
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
These guys are clever. They're probably set up in like Luxembourg or somewhere where, well, what is it? The one in France, Monaco or somewhere like that, where one of these little havens. You can't blame them. It's in their interest. This is what the monetary system forces them to do. Like, just kind of like, I guess, just having a quick go on tax havens. Like, I just keep on I see things now and then by like, oh, we need to shut down the tax havens, or we need to close up the loops in the tax system and stuff. There will always be loops. There will always be tax havens. There's no way around it, because people can be corrupted. There will always be one country that is so poor that they'll take X amount of money to just like piss off the rest of the world and just make it a tax haven. They'll probably just buy their own country.
Trying to look at some positives. I was asking a few of the lads at work because I was running short. But I looked at, and there's a few negative sides to these positives as well. Like footballers coming from poor countries and being able to get away from the poor country, which is good for the few that get it, and obviously there's a lot that don't get that. It's like a one-off chance, but it has brought some people out of poverty, and then those people might have gone on to do some good things. I know a lot of charities get like things siphoned off, like money siphoned off on the way to doing those charities, but they might have helped in some way, in little ways. And also, like one of the lads was saying, it goes back to pseudo kinship, but in a positive way. Like people who never knew each other, like complete strangers, can meet in a bar, watch a game of football, feel like family, and get a really good fix of dopamine together watching that football, which is pretty good, especially on mass life. And then the negative side of that, when people decide their families, then they might end up beating other people because that other families from a different region.
Yeah, right.
Yes. I don't want to be too cynical, but okay, let's take this one at a time. The idea that some people get out of poverty, get out of poor situations by going to football. Well, one is that we don't know the stress of a footballer, the stress that being that 1 in a million to make it out of that puts on you. I guarantee you they feel a lot of stress to being put in that situation. And then, okay, so there's that. But then there's all the people who nearly made it. The guys who put in 10 years, wasted all their education, like their young lives, doing this stuff, maybe broke a knee right at the last minute, or they just weren't good enough, and they have no skills for the rest of their life, and they're 30, and they're just like, they haven't done it. Like, I just think that's such a waste, in a way.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to play football, good, go and do it. We should give people the chance to play football. They shouldn't have to waste their lives because they want to play football.
Yeah, although I have to say, I think that if a resource-based economy was to come into play in the next 10 years and be developed in 20 years, then with that hypothetical, with the culture that we currently have, I think we're going to have to build an awful lot of football resources, to be honest with you, because at least initially, until people decide that that's not important to them, there's still going to be an awful lot of people that think, you know what, or athletic equipment. If I had the opportunity, if I didn't have to work, I would be an athlete. I think there's a lot of people think that would be a great lifestyle for them, and that, you know, they might not want to turn their well, everyone's going to want to turn their hand to their own whatever, right? So some people are going to want to build themselves intellectually, some are going to want to be tradesmen, or not craftsmen, or designers, or inventors. Some are going to want to be athletes. You know, I think at the minute, with the culture that we have, a lot of people are going to want to be athletes more than they're going to want to be intellects.
I think you're right. Like, if we say look at some of Jacques' city designs in Circular City, say an early transitional city like the UK would probably in the like the belt in Jacques cities tends to the sports and outdoor activity belt tends to be like cycling and golf and a bit of basketball. Like in the UK, it'd probably be football courts, rugby courts, like golf, cycling. Like we'd probably have basketball courts as well.
Yeah.
Like definitely the stuff would be made available.
The same way as there's going to be mosques and there's going to be churches, you know. The exact same way. Again, Mick, back to your relationship with religion, I suppose.
I think, like I've had this debate before, like in the future when, in the transitional stage as well, when, say we've got a lot more time to do what we want with, say we're just having a 5-hour working week, then I don't think it'd just be football. Like, I think there's so many different things we'd be able to start doing, and like I think people say you can't get too much of a good thing, but I think you do. I think eventually you get tired of the same. It'll become monotonous. Like if you play football for 40 hours per week every week, you get bored of it. So like there's many other things like music, art, traveling the world. If you can travel the world and study a species, or I don't know, try and solve a problem, I think there's a lot of it. There's a shitload of things we can do with our lives, and not just that. Like we will want to play football, we will want to watch football, but the reason we do it en masse now is because it's advertised for us everybody to be at a certain place at a certain time. Whereas I think in the resource-based economy, we'd just go and see who's there and say, can I join in? You know what I mean? Or can I sit in the stands and watch? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
Also,
you
with
go somewhere and just play a game of football with people. You wouldn't have to, like, you know, get 6 of your mates together to join in as like a seven-a-side or something like, and pay like £5 a week or something just to go use these crappy little courts. Sorry, this is some of my experience with six-a-side football.
Yeah, like you'd be able to set up tournaments with your friends. You know what I mean? And why would you be interested in watching football if you can play football like that? Or for those that want to watch football, they've got something to watch. There's a tournament with all the people they know it.
Because there always will be those people as well, yeah, but this is what I actually think. I think the football infrastructure will be a lot bigger because at the minute there's actually a scarcity thing about it, right? Only so many people can actually make it in football or have the opportunity to spend their life playing football and it to be sustainable financially for them, right? So this is where my thinking is coming from, is that the infrastructure for football is actually going to have to get a lot bigger because even at the minute where there isn't there's still that scarcity drive. We still consider our infrastructure for sports and athletics and stuff to be under provided for. So if it's under provided for now, what it'll be like whenever everybody has nothing to do and can fill their time as they wish to fill their time. But I agree with you, Mick, that as you start to play football every day and as you start to realise this dream, maybe it's not going to be so much of a dream anymore, and there's plenty of other things to do.
I think, yeah, like the reality kicks in.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's just completely fine. A lot of people are in love with the idea of something and then you get into it. And myself too. I was like, oh no, I want to be a music composer, and then I did music for a while, and now I'm kind of bored of it, and it's going to do something else. And,
Absolutely, I couldn't be more guilty of that myself.
Let's say I think we're talking about going into a sport and stuff in the future. I think there'll be a hell of a lot of innovation in games and sports. I think 10 years down the line, we probably wouldn't play any of the original sports.
Like we're going to be playing like that basketball trampoline hybrid game type of stuff.
Crazy stuff like what's it? The Zorb football or whatever it is. Where you have the big
that did look awesome.
That's interesting new. And I think when people have time to do stuff, and they obviously like sport, and this will be encouraged. People were going to be encouraged to go and do exercise. Play in teams, getting some friends, all the stuff. It's encouraged.
And be creative with the rules.
Because it's a conversation I often have whenever I'm talking to people about the automated work environment and stuff like that, and how it's a very real impact in our life. And we are going to have less working hours. That's a reality. It's just going to happen. And having active conversations about it with people who aren't necessarily, resource-based economy advocates or even educated in it. But and then we talk about the concept, and their main bugbear basically always is, but people need something to do, and you're like, yeah, but there's everything to do. You just don't have to be told what to do, and they do. They think it is a reoccurring argument that people think people just sit at home and play Xbox.
Yeah. It kind of comes out of our work week, I think. I kind of because I had a week off work and I kind of got into stuff and I started doing things, and then I kind of came back and I was like, I actually don't do anything with my weekends really, because it's such a shock to have time off that I don't have anything planned or anything like that.
Yeah, you take advantage of having nothing to do. Yeah, but
yeah, when you've been left alone for a month, then you're going to be doing stuff.
Yeah, totally. Because you can't I've had extended periods of time where I wasn't working, and yeah, but it probably does start about as sitting around. Well, actually, my mate during one of these conversations, he says to me, "Okay, so if money was no issue, if you won the lottery tomorrow, what's the first thing you'd do?" And I answered him instantly. The answer was nothing. The first thing I would do would be nothing, because the first thing I would do would be to take enough time to know what I want to do, rather than just say, okay, I'm going to go do this. So yeah, sometimes you're going to do nothing, but it's eventually going to lead to something.
See, I've got it like I work part time, and I think I do more now that I work part time with my time off than I do when I was working full time with my time off. Because when I was working full time, I just got smashed. I just got wasted all the time, and like I would try to learn things or do the little bit extra, but I was always too tired, so I'd always make sure that I got some entertainment supposed to be relaxing time. But then I'd get drunk, and the next day I'd spend having a hangover, so I just waste a full day.
Yeah, and your weekend's gone.
Yeah, and now like I've get over with the beer and the six because I can't afford it, and I'm tired because I've got so many things I'm doing other than work. Yeah. And I feel a lot better for it as well. In fact, one of the lads who I was asking about a positive thing that's coming out of the World Cup, he said he's getting pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it is for a lot of people. It's shocking.
I can relate to that because it's definitely something that I've grown out of. It's something that definitely would have been a big part of my culture at one stage. It's not.
I'm with you guys. Like, I don't know. I have a beer every now and again, but I haven't been probably drunk in a hell of a long time.
No, well, I get smashed every now and again, but that's because that's the culture of my friends. So if I want to spend time with and I don't live. I'm sure a lot of you are the same. At a point in my life where I have my group of friends now, it's not really expanded. It was, if anything, it's we're getting farther away from each other as a closed group. So then, whenever we see each other, we interact whatever way it is that we interact together. But then we go off and live our own separate lives separately. You know what I mean? So I go to them, I get smashed, I come home and I have 2 beer on a Saturday night, and maybe not even. Might have a cup of tea instead.
For me, it was definitely just doing it every week. And the problem is, with my friends in Newbury, like, especially when we're growing up, we didn't have anywhere to go, so you went to town and we got wasted. And it was just like every weekend, constantly. And it just got so boring eventually. I actually made the mistake about 6 months ago of renting a flat literally opposite the pub that stayed open the latest, right in the middle of the town centre.
Yeah.
We got kicked out of that flat pretty quickly. And I basically stopped partaking in anything like that.
Well, like it's the way we're brought up, like the thing that we're supposed to do, and I think this is how patriotism and nationalism comes along as well. Or like we're bred to believe that you should follow this team, and the seriousness of it. When like there's some people that don't take it seriously, and I'm fine. You know what I mean? Like I don't mind anybody that watches or plays football as long as they don't hurt anybody for it or kick off at people for not supporting the team that they support or losing, or you know what I mean, or kick off at players that are athletes. You know what I mean? For not providing them a good enough entertainment.
Yeah, but there's more symptoms of nationalism than just them obvious slap in the face, aberrance, or whatever that word might be. But there's, as far as nationalism goes, even the people that don't follow it so much, they still support their national team during things like this. So it reinforces that us versus them, you know?
Yeah.
But it's so, like, the terminology is crazy. Like, speak to anyone about the World Cup and they'll say, we'll win the World Cup.
Yeah, anyone.
Or, like, they'll say, we will do something. It's not you. You've got nothing. Like, these are some people, some of which were born in the same arbitrary border that you were born in. Some of them just emigrated here later, and that's fine. They've got the paper now, so they can play for us as well. And, like, they're over somewhere doing some stuff for the football. It's got nothing to do with you. Absolutely, you can't take any pride in England winning. What have you done at all?
Yeah, well, what it actually is is the collective group of these people who have managed to make to the top of the scarcity ladder that it was talking about earlier, and then that being made even more scarce down into a fewer number of people, and then being idolized even more. When actually all it is that those collective individuals' own personal achievements at being the best at what they do. Yeah, then we all take that as an excuse to say, but there are people.
Yeah, like not just that. Like, it's, to me, when I see somebody say somebody's father supports a team, and then that child is brought up to believe this is the team you will follow, and that child questions the father like, but they're not very good, Dad. They're not at the top of the league. And the father's like, no, we just follow these. And you're like, wait, yeah, but Dad, they're no good. It's to me in the same way as following something that doesn't work. So if, I don't know, say sacrificing people to God, it's immoral and it's incorrect. But because of, like, somebody says do it and don't question it, you do it and don't question it. It's like, and as well with football, I find that, again, coming back to if you're in a low division, your team's crap. If you're at the top of the league, you're a glory grabber. But the person at the top of the league is playing the best football. That they play the best football all the time. So why don't we support the person at the top of the league all the time?
Yeah.
And I think it's to do with chance as well. There's so many ways you can hit that ball, and the ball can land. There's so many different factors involved in how a team will win. I find that, yeah, there is some skill in it, but a lot of it is down to just chance on the day. You know what I mean? So
that really comes down to why people call football the beautiful game, something like that. It's because you can win 1-0. That's really what I think. What makes football so interesting. Most other sports, the average score tends to be a hell of a lot higher than football. Yeah. So you can play really badly and still win 1-0, and that gives it this random element. Whereas compared to, say, American football or basketball, we'll say, because they tend to score like 100 points a game. Let's say, I don't know if that's accurate or not. Something like that. They score a hell of a lot of points per game. So on average, the best team wins, and it's just more on average. Like, it's more fair, that game. Football was very unfair.
My father would say that's exactly what makes football a boring sport. is the fact that it's the one that's his opinion.
Yeah.
Is the fact that you only may see a goal.
And you may not as well for 90 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
And I found it's not just about football, but football, F1, also, I swear, we sat down watching something for a long period of time, which we could spend improving, like exercising ourselves, or learning something, educating, or exploring something new, or solving a problem. But I mean, that's not to say that we shouldn't. I mean, just not all the time. Like, I used to have TiVo, and it'd be F1, UFC, and sometimes football as well, when I was into football. And the amount of football and F1 and UFC that I had backed up, I didn't have time to watch.
Yeah, right. It's kind of like me with TVP videos now.
Yeah.
There is a lot.
There's a lot.
It's good though, because it means, like, when you're like me and you've been around for like 2 years now, something like that. I'm not bored. There's still so much more to do.
Yeah. There's
brilliant.
There's always more.
If you got through it all in a week, you can just be like, all right, see you later, guys.
Also, going back to a positive for football, goal line technology is coming in, I believe, if I read it correct, and I'd like somebody to just go out and research and double check this, but I think goal line technology is being used in this World Cup, which would mean that after, like, over a decade of rugby league and rugby union using replay, instant replay. We've finally got technology in football that can prove whether it's a goal or not.
Yeah.
And why haven't we been using it for all this time?
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. But then there's also the question of why is every foul not decided by a referee that gets to see the replay and gets to make an informed decision rather than the referee's instinct reaction. So then, but that's how it happens in other sports, right? Like in rugby and stuff like that. And there always are pointless arguments to this, and it's just dogmatic ones as far as I can see. That's just the way the game is. You know, there's sometimes bad calls, and that's all part of the game. You know, and I think it might be to contribute to this drama of it as well. You know, the conflict is good. News stories are good. Ref messes up. Headlines are good. You know,
like it's set up so that people can get expectations and people can get broke very easily in football. So like you can be like, yeah, we're going to win this game, and then that gets people very emotional, and that kind of drags people into the soap opera thing. And yeah, the ref being the baddie in the middle that gets something wrong every now and everyone in a football ground at least, like they'll just go, you need someone that you can just blame.
Yeah.
If you're going to continue this like story in your head and just like try and like make it all the best for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Give as much opportunity for as many different headlines as possible.
Or give the opportunity for somebody to believe they have the right opinion on something. Like that manager or that referee should be sacked because I say so.
Yeah.
I think it's hard for people to disagree with a crowd as well when you're surrounded by 150,000 people that are all shouting at someone. And you look around at your friends and family and like a lot of people would just shout at that person too and convince themselves that that's the logical thing to do.
It's mentality of the crowd stuff. I don't know too much about it. I need to look into it more.
Yeah.
It seems to be real.
Yeah, it seems to be real. Yeah.
I guess. Sorry, Michael.
No, you're right. Go.
This kind of goes back to one of the positives you said earlier, but who are you guys who've ever heard the phrase that football unites people?
Yeah.
This is something that's been annoying me for a while. It does not. It's complete bullshit. This is okay. So we'll go back to your specific example, Nick, here, where two people are in a pub and they sit down to watch like the England match on Friday. Is it Friday? Tomorrow? Whenever. Well, an England match. They go in and sit down and watch it, and they get along. La 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 la. And then, like a month later, they come back in, and the season started, and one's from Arsenal, one's from Tottenham, and they hate each other.
Yeah, totally.
Like yeah, all our different and it goes down to like all the way through the structure that there is this opposition, there is this other people, and for certain occasions, yeah, we might be able to come together as a country against another country, very much like a war.
Yeah, and hate them.
Yeah.
Together.
Then, and, like, is that the peak of what we can do? Is that the peak of like how we can come together? No, we need to come together across all the countries, and like, I just.
Teams should be formed of people that want to play together, right?
Yeah.
that should be how teams are made, not by big money transfers and shit like that. There should be loads of teams with loads of people that want to play together, and you support whichever one of them or many of them that you like their attitude.
I've always liked the idea that a football team that have been together for a long time know how each other play and play well together. And the more they play together and the more random creative tricks they come up with and etc., the better they get. And like when it comes to football, you've got 1 year where a team starts to gel, and then at the transfer window, boom, you've changed like a few players, and they've got to gel all over again. So I think that's another thing that spoils the game.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I hear that argument quite a lot though for things like you said with football that it brings people together. And earlier, Mick, you said about how it lets some people escape poverty, and people use similar arguments with religion as well, as it brings communities together. But I think my response to this is that there are better ways to do this. There are better ways to bring people together. For example, technology and the internet itself, I think, is one of the biggest things that's ever brought people together, kind of thing. Like, if there's a force that causes destruction and pain and inequality, but it also brings some people together, it doesn't justify it, because that same technology, those same resources and that same money, I suppose, if we're still talking about the monetary paradigm, that could be used much more efficiently. So it's not an excuse to say, oh well, there's this tiny good thing about it.
Yeah,
There could be this massive
we
good
should
thing
be
about it.
justifying the means before we're justifying the ends, right?
Yeah, I was kind of like trying my best to find some positives, and it was like, even one of the like diehard football fans kind of went, I don't know, and he agreed that like since football became more of a corporatocracy, it spoiled the game. So yeah, but
And
I
like,
was going on.
sorry, like the typical response to why the football players get paid so much is because they make people happy. We know what else makes people happy: clean water and like access to shelter and food. And the same money could be spent on those things. Like, who do you think's happier? The guy that gets to, well, actually, no, it's not even a measurement of who's happier. The guy that gets to watch a guy play football, or the guy that gets to eat tonight. It shouldn't be about a measurement of that. It should just be, it's gross. It's just gross inequality.
I
And
just
yeah, go on.
I looked at the wages of paramedics, fire brigade soldiers, and Wayne Rooney. Wayne Rooney gets 300,000 up to £300,000 per week, right? And paramedics and fire brigade up to 32,000 per year. So that's already 10 times less than Wayne Rooney gets in a week. And soldiers that apparently are heroes and go and die for the country, even though they don't realise that they're just robbing oil from another country to pay the people at the top in our country, get £18,000 per year. I think that's just the basic.
Eighty,
Sorry, go on. Okay.
80,000,
No, 18.
18.
Yeah, 18,000 per year. So like you said, there's some gross inequality, and like these are people that are either supposedly fighting for the country, or people that are saving lives, keeping people alive. So what's our priorities in a game or a life? That's my main argument.
And equality is a word that's being thrown around a lot there, and it's an important one. Equality and lack of equality, and it is something that's very important around the whole thing. It's basically what makes it a talking point, apart from the football in Brazil right now, right? So. I was talking about this on another call the other day. I remember the name of the book. It's The Spirit Level by Wilkinson and Pickett. I would recommend reading it. It's a introduction, or maybe not introduction, but introductory level writing of analysis of statistics of global inequalities and how that affects our societies and our societal well-beings and things like that. But it's a good starting point, and I would recommend that to any of you and anyone else. I think it's important to know with what we're dealing with before we know how it is that we we need to get our samples before we figure out how we're going to scientifically manipulate that to make what we want. Right? We need to know what we're dealing with.
If there's a torrent for it, I'll get it. And I'll read it.
You'll find it. You'll get it some way, I'm sure, if you're looking at torrents.
Yeah.
Going on to violence in football, I just listed the players that were involved in violence. I'm just going to go through the amount just so you've got an idea, like the not so bad ones in bad tackles were like Joy Barton, punches, Martin Gamps, Rooney elbows McCarthy, who was in the way of him, Gattuso headbutts Joe Jordan, and then the bad ones were, you can't count Maradona because he was always coked up, and you can't count Vinnie Jones because he's made a career out of being a cunt. Lee Bowyer and Kieran Dyer were both on the same side for Newcastle and squared up to each other, started fighting.
Yeah.
Luis Suarez biting somebody, Cantona kicking somebody after getting sent off, Zinedine Zidane called his mum something. Harold Schumacher, this was in the 1982 World Cup, knocked somebody called Battiston out. He knocked him into a coma, and whilst he was laying down, told him to get up, like waving him to get up. And I didn't look how long before he came out of a coma, like, but he was in a coma. And then in the women's football, there was it was just a newsreel and showing how many fouls this one woman had done in a match before she got a yellow card. I say it's funny, like, but there was a Napoli football fan in hospital with a gunshot wound, Romanian fan punching Steaua Bucharest player, just runs on the pitch, punches him because of a bad decision.
There was an example of that in England last year as well, or maybe 2 years ago, whenever the Man City fan ran onto the pitch to hit Rio Ferdinand and Joe Hart got between them.
Yeah, I've not written that one down, but I can remember it, yeah.
There's also...
Go on.
Sorry, just... I heard last week, this isn't actually footballers, but there was a Scottish like League 1 or 2 like version of an FA Cup final, some sort of cup final, and supposedly there was 100 people rioting and fighting after the game and just like crazy stuff, and they had to call in all the police and all this stuff, and they weren't prepared for it. It was this tiny little thing.
Did you see I forgot who it was, I think it was Rangers and Man United or Man City or something. They come to Manchester and Rangers just, the Ranger fans trashed Manchester, I think it was. There was like burnt out cars and things. But also Chelsea fans go on a rampage in Paris, smashing up local businesses before the Champions League tie. So that's before anybody's won or lost.
Yeah.
So it's like a mob culture. And this is what I disagree with football. Like, these are the few people that let the side down, and it's unnecessary. It's too. Why be so serious, or why be so childish as to cause?
Yeah. It's the art of division, right?
Yeah.
Divide the people and what's the chaos?
Yes. All right. Well, that's been a good hour. Let me just run through my notes and make sure we've got through everything. Oh yeah, just the last quick thing. I don't know about you guys, but I got this hilarious thing through my letterbox. Is an FA free historic edition of The Sun.
You're gonna have to put a censor bar over the title as well whenever you edit.
Oh, no one can see us. No one can see us.
Okay.
It's fine. I'm not advertising this at all. This was just ridiculous. On the front it says "This is our England," which, oh my god. So basically, it's advertising, it's patriotism, it's nationalism, it's page 3 sexism. It's crazy, and this has just been given to, I understand, everyone in the UK, or is it only some people, Mick?
22 million people, I think it says.
22 million. So that's about a third of the country.
Talk about screaming, embrace our culture.
And it's just like, I don't care what Robbie Williams says about the World Cup. Like, he stopped being relevant about 10 years ago, didn't he?
You do care.
And the adverts, the Mars adverts and the Sky adverts and I think there's some digital TV in there as well.
Yeah. Oh my God, this is just sick. Anyway.
And sign up to the Sun.
I wonder how much of that newspaper would be left if the scientific principles were applied to it. Like how many words would be left on the page?
Yeah.
I don't think any. That's not the way. It's not the way newspaper or red tops work, man. Whatsoever, in any way, shape, or form. Maybe the photos might be left because I guess photos are accurate, right?
I think you've just described me to make. I need to make some Google glasses that can recognize bullshit and just block it out.
Yeah.
Fantastic idea. That would be a fantastic app, actually. You could have that on your phone. Totally, you're reading a document on your phone. It checks the scientific relevance or facts of it. Blanks out the bullshit. That could totally be done.
You need a guide dog. You need a guide dog though to walk around town.
Yeah.
Yes.
Premium
Alright.
comedy.
Well, I guess we'll end it on this positive that Mick has written. Do you want to say it, Mick?
Can do, yeah. Just like one of the lads, one of foreign lads from our work came out with it, and it surprised me because I've been asking everybody all day to give me a positive, and this was the best one. He said for 1 month out of the year, country by country collaborates to make something happen that the world can share. So that's proof that the world can collaborate, and maybe in the future we'll collaborate towards updating the society so we can all enjoy an advanced, sustainable, efficient world that provides for everybody's needs, no matter where they're born.
Hallelujah.
Alright, that's good. Was that word for word what he said, or?
No. The bit that he said was for 1 month out of the year that the world, country by country, collaborates to make something that the world can share it.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that. So I guess we'll bid everyone a good World Cup, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks for another show.
Yep. Peace out.
All right. Thanks everyone for coming.
Thanks.
See you later, guys.
And out. It's that Venus Project Supporters Show with Tom Hockney and Aiden Fry in the studio. Each week we have a guest, and they're all part of the team promoting TVP activism in the UK. We are all volunteers, and our views do not represent the Venus Project in any legal sense, but we do try to present them in an honest way. But we're still learning here, day by day. To contact the show, email england@tvpactivism.com. For information, check out www.thevenusproject.com and find us on Facebook at The Venus Project-United Kingdom. You've been listening to the Venus Project Supporters Show on UK Collapse Radio.